Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to another reaction video. Today we are revisiting the story of the drunk teacher that was arrested way back in late August, early September. Now this had made headlines because she was so clearly intoxicated, blew a .24 on a breathalyzer test, and eventually kept arguing with the superintendent, with the police officer, and eventually got arrested in the end of all of that. And just a couple of weeks ago, attending a court hearing, it turns out she was drunk again and got arrested again for public intoxication. So I know there are a lot of people who are affected by substance use, whether in themselves or seeing it in family members and being hurt by that. The reason that I'm doing this video is not to continue to pile onto her. I think she's had enough crap to last for a lifetime. And just as in the first video, I hope that she gets the help that she needs. My point is not to rehash that she's making poor decisions or anything like that. While that may be a very normal reaction for us to have, what I want to contribute to this conversation is that relapse is a normal part of the struggle with addiction, part of the healing process. And a lot of times we don't get that. For those of us who are lucky enough to not be affected by substance addiction, it can be easy for us on the outside to say, well, why did she choose to do that? She knew the consequences. This was a complete mistake that could have been completely avoided. And I want to dive into this video now because it is important to realize that that's not the case for people who struggle with addiction. So let's dive into it.
Sorry.
Yeah, not at this time, no. Because you showed up to a public courthouse intoxicated. Okay, that's public intoxication. That is charged in Oklahoma statutes.
Whew. Just looking at her facial expression right now, you can see the gears turning. And yeah, so the story was that a police officer at the court hearing recognized that she was slurring her words, that she was having trouble keeping her balance going up and down steps and things like that. And so that's what caused him to have this conversation with her in the first place. And apparently it's gotten to the point where he has confirmed that she's publicly intoxicated. And so that's where we're picking up now.
Okay, so have you had anything to drink today?
Stop talking and go with this gentleman. Have you had something to drink today? Yes. No. I'm sorry, what?
Have you had anything to drink today? Yes
I
or
had a
no?
glass of wine this morning. Yes.
This morning?
Yes.
So she does seem reluctant to answer. And for me as a person, my initial reaction is like, you're going to a court hearing because you were publicly intoxicated at a school where you were a teacher. Have you not lost enough? Have you not suffered enough consequences to know that you don't do this? But as a counselor, I have to step back from that judgment and be able to recognize where she might be at. Because in the original video, months ago, she said that she was struggling with anxiety. And so when we talk about co-occurring disorders, that's when you have multiple mental health struggles going on at the same time, and a lot of times they can feed on each other. And so thinking about going to a court hearing might be a very anxiety-provoking event for her. And so maybe she drinks a couple of glasses of wine to take off the edge or to feel a little more calm. And she maybe didn't think that it would be that obvious and show up in her speech and in her balance to the point where she would get pulled aside by this officer here. But that's why for addiction, it's not as simple as just saying stop or quit or just make better decisions. For a lot of people, that substance was how they coped with whatever else may have been going on. Might have been anxiety, might have been depression, might have been trauma. And what that means is that we need a more multifaceted approach, a more holistic approach to the person than just saying, why do you keep doing this? Because if it is related to anxiety, we know why she's doing it, but she just hasn't found a better way to cope with that anxiety beyond the alcohol at this point.
Why?
Mike.
An hour ago this morning?
No. This morning?
Kimberly asked to see your attorney. Stop talking.
I'm sorry, what?
You have the right to stop talking. Am I wrong, gentlemen? She has the right to refuse to answer questions, okay?
Yeah. So, go ahead and come with me. So we're gonna have
Okay, so there's someone in the background saying, don't answer the questions. She has a right not to say anything. So I don't know whether that might be her husband or that might be an attorney or somebody, but you can see that she's darting between the officer and whoever's speaking to her. She doesn't know what the right thing to do is. And we've seen in the previous video, when she doesn't know what might be expected of her, what she's supposed to say or not say, it seems like she's freezing up.
No problem.
Yeah.
Articulate. Okay.
If you have the odor, glassed eyes,
Slurred speech, swaying.
Well, I can go home with my husband. He's gonna take me home.
No, you're going to come with me now.
So that is her husband. That's the one that we are actually wondering about in the previous video when she seemed to have a lot of hang-ups about calling him in the first place. So I don't know what's transpired between them, what the conversations have been like about her use of alcohol, but I think she's looking for the same out that she had in the previous incident where she could have avoided arrest by having her husband come pick her up. But I guess it just doesn't look the same when you're at a hearing for your previous incidents with alcohol.
You're going to be arrested for public intoxication.
I don't understand.
you're in public, you're intoxicated, you're gonna go to jail, is what he's telling you.
But I haven't done anything. I don't
You're
understand. I'm sorry.
intoxicated at this point, ma'am. You're drunk. You have slurred speech. Okay. You're very unsteady on your feet. Okay. I can smell the odor of alcohol on your breath as you're talking to me. I can smell it. Okay. We noticed it at the front door when you came in.
Well, my husband's. I can go home. Please, just let me go home.
That's not how it works, ma'am.
Kimberly, stop.
Okay.
Stop.
So, come on.
You are being recorded again.
Come on.
I'm sorry, gentlemen.
I don't understand.
You
I
go to the
don't
elevator.
understand. I'm so sorry.
So I can see some of that anxiety, noticing that her speech is getting more rapid, she's repeating herself, she's trying to figure out a way out of this situation. And it's a warranted anxiety. I mean, she is in a bad spot. So that's not to say that that anxiety is irrational, but definitely you can see some of that peeking through in the moment when she's realizing that, uh-oh, we're going through this again. But I think it is very telling that she starts apologizing to the officer when she hasn't personally offended the officer. Well, that tells me that how people see her, how people perceive her matters a lot to her. It greatly influences her. And what that means is that in a high pressure situation like this, where she feels a lot of disapproval, she feels like she's doing the wrong thing, that can definitely cause her to be a lot more reactive, be a lot more anxious in those situations, because how important it is that other people think of her well. And that might be just the tip of why she's apologizing so profusely right away.
Do you have anything else on your person that you'd like your husband to take, like a cell phone, keys, or anything?
I don't understand.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Could you just tell me what's going on?
Okay. You're being under arrest for public intoxication. Okay. We noticeably saw that you were unsteady on your feet downstairs. Okay. We watched you come up the stairs as you were coming to court. Good. We're going to get in the elevator. Okay. You were very unsteady coming up the stairs. Okay. We also have the DOC gentleman that was in the room with you, that he could smell the odor of alcohol coming from your breath. As I was talking to you downstairs here, I could also smell the odor of alcohol upon your breath. Okay, and even while you're talking, your speech is very slurred. Okay, we can go back around to the front desk. Okay. Oh, it's going this way.
Where are you headed to?
I was just wondering if my husband could just get me home.
No, you cannot.
Okay. Put your phone in your purse. Put it all in there.
Come down and seat on those great chairs right there. Okay, there's nothing else on your person, no earrings or anything? I'm going to get your paper from you.
You could hear in that no, and even in her body language, where Her eyes are really downcast and her shoulders are kind of slumped now. She's feeling really defeated at this moment. She's tried apologizing, she's tried getting out of the situation, she's tried saying that her husband could take her home because he's right there, and she's realizing that like this is real now. And what I want to add on to that is that this is a very normal cycle for people who struggle with addiction. That's not to say that it's a great cycle, but it is very normal. When we talk about the trans-theoretical model of change, which talks about pre-contemplation, which is when people don't even realize there's a problem yet, to contemplation, to realizing, oh, there might be something going on here, there might be a problem. And then they move to steps towards change, and then maintenance, which means maintaining that change. The really interesting part is that relapse is part of that cycle, is that it's considered normal, not great, but a normal part of the process. If we continue to stigmatize relapse, it discourages people from continuing in their journey towards sobriety when they do mess up, and it really alters how we think about people who struggle with addiction. And so I do appreciate that model for being very normalizing of what happens during relapse, because like I talked about before, a lot of people have something else going on beyond just an addiction to a certain substance. And so she had relapsed, and because of the intervention of the officers here, I'm guessing she moved straight over to contemplation, like, okay, there's something wrong, I may need to change something. And the important thing, and I think AA does a really great job of emphasizing this, is that sobriety is a daily journey. It's not something that you're just cured from and you forget, but it's something that takes active effort and intention every day. And today might have just been an off day for her.
And what's your first name?
It's Kimberly.
Hey, you got your Nikes on today, buddy.
So she just did.
How's it going? Pretty good.
Oh.
Okay. Have you already been to Wings of Hope? Yeah. Okay. Grab your card, that orange card right there, Dan. Wings of Hope is out past the bowling alley on Washington. On the left-hand side, there was a little paperwork. You got that. Go out there and see your name there. Thank you. Yes, sir. Y'all better come through. I see her. Okay.
Make sure your good eyes
I
on.
tried to get her. I said, she's come all the way up here to see you.
Take it off.
Yeah. Is that the surgery? What's the training to do? What's he trained to do?
Ms. Coates, go ahead and stand up for me. Okay, palms together, thumbs up.
What's mom doing? She's not very trained. She just don't want to talk.
No, you're good. I'm all right.
Thumbs up.
Something that's very striking about this time that she's being arrested versus the previous time, there's a lot less obvious emotionality here. She's done a little bit of the crying and the pleading and all of that stuff on the way to the elevator, but now at this point, there's no bargaining, there's no crying, and I'm not quite sure what the difference is here, but just something to notice.
For me.
I put it back there sometimes. Not all the time. It depends. Yeah. You got a picture battle, right?
Yeah.
I can wait. I'm not in a rush.
Good. So we're gonna go ahead and go through this door right here. Okay, in between those two doors right there on your left, just stand right there for me.
I didn't think about this until just now, but her husband was with her initially when they were, it looked like, upstairs. Between the officer pulling her over and then them going downstairs, the husband's disappeared from the picture. Now, I don't know whether he wasn't allowed to follow along or whatever the case may have been, but again, there's a bit of a mystery in the relationship between this woman and her husband, especially in the previous video where she was very reluctant to call him for help. And again, I just wonder, I don't have anything to base this on, whether there might have been discussed that he's just kind of given up on this process, or just feeling like, we'll just let the consequences go as they need to, and I'm done with this for today, or whether he just wasn't allowed to follow during the arrest process. That I don't know. But that is to say though, that family support is super important, because as you see here with her being so resigned to this process now, having a family, having a community around you, again, why AA is so important, is that those people can give you encouragement and support when you don't feel like you have any for yourself. That sometimes there are gonna be days where you feel really motivated in your sobriety and taking all the steps that you need, and sometimes you need to borrow that a little bit from the community around you. And so addiction is a really hard thing to fight on your own.
So, that's what we're going to jail for. Exactly what I explained. Okay, this first door on your left. Okay, go ahead and step through. Okay, first door on your right. Keep going.
Come back.
Go ahead and step in there and have a seat on the bench to your right. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and slide down to the end over here for me. Your hands. Or your wrist up. You see your right wrist? Good. Down, down. There you go.
So what I want to emphasize here is that addiction is not as simple as we would like it to be. It would be great if it were just a matter of willpower and people just being able to say no to drugs. It's not that simple. Like we potentially see in this case, there could be a co-occurring disorder. She talked about previously how she struggles with anxiety, and maybe she was self-medicating, which means using a drug in a way to try to cope with the difficult feelings that comes with another mental health condition. So potentially she could have been using alcohol to take off the edge when she was stressed or anxious about this court hearing. And that's just the way that she's learned how to cope over the years and hasn't replaced that with something else. And that would make quitting alcohol very difficult, because then she's left with all these anxious feelings that she's never learned to live with or engage with, except just to try to numb them using alcohol. I also want to reiterate that relapse is a normal part of the cycle. If she were my client, I might be disappointed personally that she had relapsed and picked a terrible time to drink, but as a counselor, I also recognize that's a normal part of the process. And my job in that moment is to encourage her, let her know that this is a normal part of the cycle, that she's not the only one who relapses, and that the best thing we can do in this case is get right back onto our journey with sobriety. How do you want to make a change so that we can continue moving towards something better for your life? And again, I want to reiterate that throughout this process. In some way, I hope she gets the help that she needs and realizes that she needs a more lasting change throughout all of this. And you know, even as we talked about Matthew Perry passing just a couple of weeks ago, he talked in interviews and in his book how he had been in and out of rehab so many times. He had been through dozens and dozens of treatments and spent millions of dollars on trying to get sober. That was not a lack of willpower on his part. That was an ongoing struggle with an active disease. And so in all of this, I really want it to be clear that I'm not here just to pile on her for making another mistake. That's not the point of this video. The point is to let people who might be struggling, or people who have a loved one who might be struggling with addiction, to know that relapse is not the end of the world. It can definitely set you back, especially as you saw here in this case. But the best thing to do is not to beat up on that person or beat up on yourself, but to start recognizing, okay, how do I need to start making changes for my tomorrow and for the rest of my sobriety journey? Everyone, thank you so much for checking out this video. It is a weird feeling to kind of go back full circle to the first video I had that made it really big, and to revisit an update to that case. Now, I do wish the circumstances were better around the update that I'm providing, But again, the message remains unchanged. Mental health is real. Addiction is a real, ongoing struggle for people, and it's not something that gets fixed in one moment, but requires daily maintenance and encouragement from family and community. So as always, please like and subscribe. That helps our channel to grow and continue making content for you all. Addiction is definitely a difficult battle to fight alone. Please check the links in the description below if you are struggling or if a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction to seek some resources and get some help. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.